morning, everybody, and welcome to another class on Florida-friendly landscaping. And today, since it's nice and chilly outside, we're going to stay inside. Works well for if you happen to be a Hernando County Master Gardener. I know if you work in the nursery, it's too cold for you to want to work in the nursery, so just might as well watch one of my classes today. And before I forget, if you are a Hernando County Master Gardener, I hear there was some questions about this. Any of my classes are good for your CEUs. Any class of mine that you take should net you a CEU as far as a Master Gardener. If Bill tries to tell you it doesn't, just let me know and I'll go beat him up and you will be fine. So any of my classes should work for CEUs. So let's start a little bit on 7 steps and 3 years. As I was saying when I was muted and nobody heard me, 3 years is not a hard, fast rule. Your time frame is your time frame. And here we're going to kind of be covering converting an established yard to Florida friendly, but it can also, these rules will work if you have a brand new spanking yard to start from the very beginning again. Okay, I am Lily Browning, and I work for Hernando County Utilities. I'm trying to admit people into the waiting room. Do you see them there, Karen? I think, yeah, they're connected.
It's just taking a couple minutes for it to go in.
All right. I do work for Hernando County Utilities. I work very closely with the County Extension Office. I partner with them. But it is the water department whom I work for and who gives me my check. And I work with water conservation. No better way to conserve water than through Florida-friendly landscaping. And down here is my email at LillyB, that's 2 L's, at hernandocounty.us if you have any questions from me. Also, I have already changed this PowerPoint into a PDF. So if after the class that you email me at that email and say, hey, I'd really like a PDF version of that PowerPoint, I'll be glad to send that to you. Also, as said, we are being recorded. So I will put the recording on Facebook probably this afternoon. And I also send it to Hernando County Public Information. And John there is fantastic about editing it. Puts a little intro music and all that, and it'll be available on Hernando County Government YouTube as well. So if you have friends who like, yeah, I don't do the Facebook, I'm not going to do the Facebook. A lot of them do watch YouTube, so let them know that our classes are on there as well. Here are the 9 principles of Florida-friendly landscaping, and this is what if you are. Whoops, sorry. If you, I'm going to hide them so I don't see them anymore, Karen, to keep letting them in. If you want a yard to be Florida friendly, these are the principles that you are going to follow. And they will be popping up in a lot of ways in the things that we discussed today. They won't be pointed out specifically to you unless I happen to remember to mention it, but you'll see how right plant, right place, very important. Water efficiently, fertilize appropriately, mulch, attract wildlife, manage yard pests responsibly, recycle, reduce stormwater runoff, and protect the waterfront. That's what it all boils down to, is protecting the waterfront. Even if we don't physically live on a body of water. We're all very close to one somewhere or another here in Florida. And every single one of us, my colleague in Haskell County, Jim Mull, points out we all live on the water because we all live on top of the aquifer and we need to protect our drinking water source as well. Okay. Try to get you to move here. All right, this is what I'm going to be working off of today. This Florida-friendly landscaping guide to plant selection and design. And that's why I didn't use a background today, a fancy background like Karen is using, because when I try to show you this, when I have a background, it disappears. This is a fantastic book. And actually, we're going to be this presentation is taken right out of this book right here. This is a fantastic thing to have. If you don't have one, there are several ways that you can get one. I have that link up there. Don't worry about finding that exact link. You can just Google FFL, Plant Selection Guide. Or you can even put UF for University of Florida after that. That will get you a PDF computerized copy of this very book. Now, if you want one in your hand, like I have, because it's fantastic to have in your hand, these are free. Every single one of these ways I'm telling you are free ways to get a hold of this book. Watermatters.org. That's another website that is actually the Southwest Florida Water Management District. The University of Florida created this book. And here in Hernando, anyway, the Water Management District prints these books for us. So that's, pretty cool, that collaboration there. But if you go to watermatters.org and look for their resources for homeowners, and if you get there on page 2, you'll find this book that you can order. If you live in one of the 16 counties that is part of the Southwest Florida Water Management District's district, they will mail you one of these for free. Sometimes you might have to try a couple times. If you live in Hernando County or, one of the counties that is part of their district and it comes back saying error or didn't work, try again. It will work. I know it works because I tried it and they mailed me one right to my house. So there you go, that worked. Another way of getting a hold of one of these is you can call the Hernando County Extension Office. There's the phone number right there. If you're not comfortable going in, just call and tell Teresa, I'd like a Florida Friendly Plant Guide. Can I stop by? And you'll make an appointment. She'll come out to your car with a mask on and hand you one. Can't get much simpler than that. Also, if you happen to go to the Hernando County Master Gardener Nursery, which is normally open Wednesdays and Saturdays, but they're cold this morning. So they're not open this morning. But if you, weather dependent, if you go Saturday, and you can always call that phone number above to find out if they're open or not. They have these books that they'll be glad to give you for free. So I highly recommend getting one of these books, and it's really what I'm working out of today. And not to cast aside, though, there's another book, and you can find this online, just the regular Florida Friendly Landscaping Handbook, which talks about the principles and details and other such things. So also try and get a hold of one of those as well. So let's talk about these 7 steps. And I got it out of this book, these 7 steps. So if you have one of these books or get one of these books, you can see where I'm operating out of. And it says in there that this, the way they set it up, could take about 3 years. And as I said, that's entirely dependent on you. Don't hold fast to that 3 years. Could be 6 months, could be 13 years, it's all however you feel that you want to do it. So the first step, and this is the step that I try to pass over, but it's very, very important, is developing a master plan. Put it on paper, and I'll show you the different ways that you can do that. It includes everything that you've got there, all in precise locations. This is your yard, your landscape, your house. And of course, because we're doing this so that we can have a Florida-friendly yard, keep those principles that I just told you in mind. In that book I just told you about, there's a planning worksheet. It's like 3 pages. It's on page 25 through 27. So it's hard for you to see here, but if you got a hold of one of these books, even the PDF copy, you'll see the landscape planning worksheet, and that'll help walk you through, decide why you want to landscape. Get a soil analysis, and it'll tell you how you can do that. Then it says draw a landscape plan, inventory your landscape, and it asks you questions specific to you. This is a great way to go about doing that. So now, if you live in a deed restricted community, it's very possible that you are going to have to present this to your homeowners association or to your architectural review board. And I have a class coming up soon about living Florida friendly in a deed restricted community. So I am not, an architect. I am not a landscape designer. I'd have a real hard time making a plan on paper look as good as this one does here. And if you are out by yourself in an area where, no one's going to bother you about what, you don't have to turn in a plan to anyone, then just make the plan look good enough for you. But if you're in a deed restricted community, I have several classes on this, you want to really sell your Florida friendly landscaping plan in a very professional way, not just scribbled on a piece of paper, so that they can understand. There's even software out there that can help you with this. Some of it's free if you look it up, that can help you at least have a semi-decent looking plan. Like I said, I'm not a landscape designer. And when I was part of it was a VOTEC horticultural program was one of the things that I took in college. And I'll tell you a secret right now. They had you go to AutoCAD classes to develop landscape plans. And all the other people in there had been in drafting since high school. And we horticulture people didn't know. We didn't have a clue what we were doing with AutoCAD and trying to create landscape plans. And here's my little secret. I withdrew from AutoCAD. I was doing that terribly. They eventually took that out of the required classes for that program because they realized, they got up to date and realized there's software out there that can help you with this kind of thing. And here's a little twist on a well-known saying, and this is Lilly's version of it. Failure to plan is planting to fail. Not just planning to fail, but planting to fail. So you want to draw the plan to scale. Get your property boundaries. Sometimes you're going to run into trouble if you don't. So if your house is fairly new, somewhere you have that certified survey. I have so many people who they buy a new house and then that survey disappears. That's really something you want to hold on to and have in a place where you know where it is. So just so you don't get in trouble with your neighbors, or maybe you decided to landscape in an area that is public property, such as a drainage right of way or the street right of way, something like that. Get that survey so you're only operating in your own property. Put your house, the shape of your house. Mine would be a lot easier than that. Mine's pretty much a rectangle with a little porch bump out. And the existing landscape that's already there. That's the first thing you're going to do, is pretty much inventory what you have. And then make a note of the things that you want to stay there. There might be things that exist that you want to be removed. Make a note of the things that are going to stay there. And don't worry about that being too small, because there it is. I blew it up for you. So this is just showing you, you put the shape of your house, and it shows you where lawn is, where you have patio, everything out there, where you have mulch, where a swale is, and just make note of everything out there in your yard. And move forward. I call this as-built. I spent enough little bit of tiny time around real engineers by working at the Department of Public Works for a few years, as well as now I work for Hernando County Utilities. So engineers pop in and out. So I picked up a tiny bit of their language. So as-built, that is a plan basically that you get after a project is finished, and it is literally as the place was built. So you're going to make a plan of what you already have, how it already is. So you're taking an inventory of what's in your landscape. You want to make note of the soil type. You may have different soil types in different areas of your yard. In a real low shady area might be a little richer than in a high, very sandy, dry area. What's already there, the existing vegetation, shade patterns. And this is why you don't want to be in a rush for this, because shade patterns don't just change in a 24-hour period. Shade patterns change in a 365-day period, don't they? So you might want to even have notes of different seasons and how the shade and sun changes in your yard. Drainage patterns, a lot of people don't think about that. It's a good thing to keep in mind. Views, what views do you want to emphasize? What views do you want to de-emphasize? Utility locations is extremely important, because if you put something in the way of, your electric lines, your utility lines, anything like that, it's very possible that when something occurs, or even, your septic tank, your well, things like that, if those utilities have to be fixed, all the landscaping that you've done might be destroyed in the process. So keep it real simple around those things. And last comes your needs and wants. That you would think that would be first, but actually you won't be successful if you don't keep these other things in mind. And that goes to right plant, right place. Not where I want the plant. It's where is this plant going to thrive? Here I blew up that plan for you. And it shows, well, there's existing shrubs here. This plan is interesting to me because I would draw a plan with the front door at the bottom. This is like a sideways view. So you see the front door is over here. And then this is the street. So it talks about street views. Over here it's high and really sunny. There's a fence there going into the backyard, and that's where they have their trash and their workbench, and that's just a whole gravel area. And here's where the AC is, and all this is a fence. There's already shrubs here. There's sod here. Just making note. What do you have? The patio. And there's good views on that patio. They're making note of that kind of thing. Oh, very, very important here. Underground line. Keep those kind of things in mind as well. Now we talked about the as-built, so that's as it is. Then sometimes what a company will do is send to the engineer the add-ons, meaning we gave you what we wanted to build, and now we're adding things onto it, and at the very end you get your as-builts. But these are the proposed improvements. So you've already made plans about what you have. Now these plans are what you want. And you're going to add plants. And this type of plans, don't worry yet about specific plants. You can put tall tree, small tree, ground cover. Don't worry, too much about getting your head wrapped around exactly what kind of plants yet at this point, aside from sun loving or shade loving, things like that. But you do want to specify the materials like mulch and sun loving plants, tall trees, things like that. And here's the blow up of your, this is your dreaming plan, I guess I should say. See, they want to enlarge the patio. They want to keep a small sod area, keep those views open. They had a low area there they want to add fill to, and see, add color. They're not saying add impatiens, they're saying add some kind of color. More low plants, more plants and trees. Just in general, what you want there. And here, see, redirect water. And that could be done with a rain barrel, a rain garden, all sorts of things. And here are the Florida-friendly elements that you want to keep in mind when you are dreaming of your new yard. Turf areas can be a part of a Florida-friendly yard if it is the right plant in the right place and you're not using a ton of chemicals and water to keep it looking nice. If you put turf in an area and it is fulfilling a function without a lot of input from you, then it's, a pretty good Florida-friendly plant. But also plant beds and mulch areas. Don't forget, the fun parts for the people, the entertainment areas and the circulation. That means how do you move people from one place to another? Patios and decks and pathways. When you're thinking about trees and shrubs, you want to think about energy efficiency. How you place them around your home has a lot to do with the energy efficiency in your home. And you can use them as screens. If there are neighbors you don't want to see or other views or whatever. Again, there's other plants you can use for plant screenings. Is there an area that you want to conceal, like a work area, or that's where your trash is? Wildlife and habitat plantings. It's really not going to be a Florida-friendly yard if you don't have that as a major portion in your yard. So that is very important. There might be a specific place you want to put your garden shed, your compost bin, and of course, rain barrels can work into your yard. Make a note where that's going to go. And you might even want to consider rain gardens. We have whole classes on what rain gardens are. You can look back on my videos and probably even on the YouTube channel. Here's a neat concept that I like. Create outdoor rooms. So we're going to do all this before we even are worried about very specific plants. We've made our plans. And now we're going to create spaces that function like rooms in a house. And I really like this concept. And it's always interesting to me because my mother kind of did this naturally. I don't know, maybe she read somewhere along the line, Some Better Homes and Gardens or something, but we were blessed that somehow or another we had half an acre in the city of Pittsburgh. And if anyone's ever been to Pittsburgh, you know that half an acre was not a flat half an acre. So street was up here, like an 8-foot retaining wall. The first part of our yard, which was a hill, the flat part by the house. She had a non-connected patio, then a pathway to the backyard, which was fairly flat, a flat play area, huge vegetable garden, not connected garage that went further downhill into the alley. So it kind of was already created like different rooms and spaces. So she just kind of could work with what she had. Each little section felt like its own space and its own room. And she had 24 years to play with that yard and, really add her touches and make it, and add all kind of, there were cherry trees and grape arbors and, raspberries, things like that. But we take that idea to a Florida yard, which most likely you just have a flat space. I have a half an acre now, which to me doesn't look as big as the yard I grew up in. Could be because I'm bigger and this is reality. And maybe that could be part of it. But you can still take, flat land and create just different areas by using pathways, screening of trees, hardscape, to divide and organize spaces, just so your yard is just more fun and more interesting and feels like each new place you go into is a new adventure. There's a master gardener named Wynn, and he has, oh, I'm not even sure, maybe an acre or two in the east part of the county. So it's more wet than like your typical Spring Hill yard. But it's all flat, of course. And he has managed to really get that, that idea of outdoor rooms going just by using various screenings and plants and pathways and all of that. You want to keep proportion in mind. There's like a fine line for us gardeners between a lush garden and an overgrown jungle. So it is, you got to keep that balance there, keep proportion in mind. You don't want, things to grow so huge that your house is really dwarfed by it. Make sure things look good to the eye and stay in proportion, and take advantage of those showstoppers for emphasis. What do I mean by that? When the master gardener is good at that, he'll have some paths and some like tree tunnels that will end in a statue. Or you could put a gazebo or a plant that you're particularly proud of that is a good specimen plant for you. These pathways take your line of sight to what you really want to show off. If you look back on some of my videos on YouTube, look up shabby chic landscapes, and I cover a lot of that there. But you want to keep variety and composition in mind. Again, this is there's that fine line between having variety and having chaos. So that shabby chic goes over a little more design ideas, but also when it boils down to it, here's the first rule about landscape design. It's your yard. Do what you want. That's the first rule. If it makes you happy, then go ahead and do it. But you want to keep a variety of plant species, plant sizes, especially heights, plant color, plant texture, and plant shapes. This also is this is one of your first rules in attracting wildlife into your yard as well. Okay, that was all step one. Now let's do step two. We've got our plans, we've made the designs. So, and if you have an existing yard, you may have to do this section by section. So think of it that way. If you're not just thinking about an entire blank slate, think about it section by section. So before you do the plantings, it makes sense to install the hardscape. Now, what is hardscape? Hardscape, if you're looking at this picture, you're thinking the hardscape is those pavers there. And that's true. That is hardscape, but so is that fence. So would be a bench or a statue or rocks around a pond or basically any tables, chairs, anything that is not a plant that, is part of your landscape. That is what we consider hardscape. And you want to put that in before the plants. That just makes sense. So if you have an area that you want to redo, try and protect as well as you can the plants you want to keep, but take all out the plants you don't want to keep and then install your hardscape features around that area. You want to call 811. That's the call before you dig, because especially if you're in a dense community or that has a lot of underground utilities, you don't want to take out everyone's cable because they're going to be really mad at you. You don't want to take out, your neighbor's electricity either. So at least 2 full days, you call 811 and they'll come out. And when you're driving around, you've seen them, those little flags, and they're different colors. Those are actually called line locates because they're locating different, might be actually fiber optic lines, electric lines, maybe water lines, maybe gas lines. The color indicates that. So you call them and have them locate those lines before you even start digging. And if it's possible, now, like I said, you can do this section by section. So you have a section, you want to put all the hardscape in that section before you put in the plants, because to avoid destroying the plants later in the process. And with Florida friendly landscaping, as much porous material as you can use. So that's why this one shows pavers. Pavers are, and bricks are more porous than asphalt or cement. They slow the water down, they let it seep between the cracks. There's actually bricks and pavers out there that are made to be, kind of like sponges that soaks it all in. Those might be a little bit more expensive. Just something to look into. But you could also consider the use of gravel or shell or mulch or any kind of material that allows the rainwater to seep into the soil. That all goes towards having a Florida friendly yard. Also, let's go to that recycling principle. You want to use as much as you possibly can durable, reclaimed, reprocessed, or recycled content and materials. Just at all possible, ask about that, and find out how many things you can reuse or is reused material. You really want to minimize the movement of trucks and equipment in your yard, even new yards. What happens is there's so much equipment going back and forth in a yard that's being built or that's being retrofitted. And 5 years later, the extension office gets calls that my oak tree suddenly died. Well, your oak tree didn't suddenly die. Trees take a long time to show how sick they are. And by the time they do, it's usually too late. And a lot of this may have to do with the compaction due to construction that may have occurred a few years before. Or a lot of times they will ask, did your neighbor just put in a pool? So all that digging and compaction and all of that. So as much as is possible, keep all the trucks and the equipment off your actual yard or on there as little as possible. And of course, if you're going to have some type of irrigation system, it just makes sense to put that in before you put the plants in. Okay, now we're down to step 3. We're going to get ready for trees. So we made all our plans. We put in our hardscape. Now we're going to get ready for trees. I didn't say plant trees. We're going to get ready for the trees. We're going to decide where these trees, where we want them to be. And so if there's already sod there, we're going to remove it. The tree needs a good amount of space. And they say in the book, you can use rope to mark, where you want the tree to be. You can use rope, you can use a hose, you can use whatever that marks where you want that tree to be. Just give it a good amount of space and take out the sod and other plant material and aerate, till up that soil to aerate it. Then you can put down the 2 to 3 inches of mulch. Even if you don't plan on putting the tree there for another few months, that'll help get that area ready for when you do plant it. And it creates the space, so you don't put other things there. Step 4 is actually installing the trees. Now, planting trees is a whole class in itself as well. I do have some classes on trees. It's called Trees, Marvelous Trees. That may be back in my videos on Facebook. I think I did that via Facebook Live. I might do a recording of it again so it can be on YouTube. But you want to choose the appropriate trees for your site and your site conditions. And this book, past all those lovely instructions, actually has lists of plants by trees, by small trees, large trees, medium trees, ground covers, annuals, perennials, all of that. And so make sure if you're here in Hernando County or anywhere in Central Florida, you choose a plant that has a C for Central Florida. And we are in zone 9A. Also, make sure it's right for the site conditions. If you have very dry soil, you have to put a tree there that is going to do well in those conditions. Now, I don't know if you know, when you go to purchase a tree, they actually are graded, kind of like eggs. So the best quality tree that you can buy from a nursery is going to be called a Florida Fancy. And that is the highest quality. It doesn't have any bark inclusions, which is almost like a little hernia of a tree, where the tree comes together in different branches and the bark includes out because these two are fighting for dominance. So what you really want is a tree that has a single leader, one trunk. Now we love the character of old trees, how they grew in the woods and things. And that's great to love that kind of character, but that kind of character does not always transfer well to a landscape. We want a long-lasting tree that's not going to fall on your house. So nurseries, generally they have clonal trees, which if you look at any shopping center or anything and you look at the oaks there, they probably, if you really pay attention, they all look exactly the same. And that is kind of on purpose because they have developed through cloning these trees, the type of tree that is not going to be a problem tree. So that's something, it's going to have a single leader. That's one of the most important things, one trunk to rule them all, because otherwise they start fighting over dominance and you create a weak tree, just kind of like any kind of organization does the same thing. The branches, you don't want to have much, any kind of like 90-degree or very sharp angles between branches. That's a point where it's going to break. It is really best to, just like kids, trees do best when you start training them as young as possible. You're going to have a much stronger tree if you are training it to be how you want it to look when it's very small. And while I'm saying that, let me tell you that you will have much more success purchasing a small tree. This tree in this picture might even be a little iffy. It's, rather big. We want that instant gratification. But I can tell you now, a smaller tree, in a 5 or 10 gallon or whatever pot, is going to establish faster. In fact, it's what I recommend for part-time residents, that as soon as they get here, if they want to plant a tree, get a very small tree as soon as they get here to plant it. So then it establishes by the time they go to leave in 6 months. Larger trees are going to take a lot longer establishment time. Also, the younger it is, the better it'll adapt to your area, and it's just a better way to go around. And make sure the tree has a lot of vigor and doesn't look sickly. Now here's something a lot of people may not know. We plant trees and we want to put like a tree over here, a tree over there, and actually studies have shown there's a lot of benefits to grouping together, say 3 to 5 to 7 trees in all together. That's how they grow in the woods. But there's many things that does. It is healthier for the trees. You don't want to put them too close where they're growing into each other. But in groups also creates wind breaks. Believe it or not, it is a better situation as far as storms or hurricanes go for you than a tree standing alone. Why? Because they're going to help create windbreaks together, but also their roots start growing over each other and they anchor each other down. So that is, one good way. Keep in mind, and you can do that in a very artistic and pleasing way, grouping those trees together. And again, call that 811. You're going to dig pretty far down for your tree. When you're planting a tree, just like any other plant, you want to plant twice as wide, but no deeper than it is than the plant ball than the root ball is. In fact, that tree that they're planting there, that root ball, you want a couple inches above the soil, and you don't want to put any mulch over it for quite some time to let it soak in, and never put the mulch up against the trunk of the tree. And again, you want to put that hardscape in first and then put the trees in. That just kind of makes sense for you. And choose the appropriate mature size. I'm kind of encouraging you to get young trees because they're going to establish better if you can. But think about it's going to grow up. And, you know, maybe it won't be your problem, but it'll be somebody's problem someday. So make sure it's not going to grow into power lines. Make sure it's not going to outgrow the space. Again, we want that instant gratification, but we have to be thinking about the future. And also the potential development around you, not just your yard, how it's going to grow, but like where I am here in the Royal Highlands. If anybody else is from here, you may have noticed there's a lot of building going on. It's kind of crazy up here. So if I planted, you know, a tree near the border of my property, and then someone comes and clear cuts the lot next to me, that eventually, you know, could cause problems for my trees that I planted as well. So kind of keep those things in mind. Okay, we're on to step 5. So we've done the plans, done the hardscapes. We planned for the trees, we prepared for the trees, we planted the trees. Now it's finally time for the fun part and the pretty flowers and the shrubs and, you know, just kind of adding the icing on our cake. That's what we're doing now. We've been building our cake and baking our cake, and now we finally get to add the icing and the pretty part on it. So again, go back to that master plan. Don't forget about that master plan. Don't waver away from, of course, you can make changes if you change your mind, but don't waver away from the basic idea. Now, most people are going, you know, you should probably do this in stages. And most people are going to start at their front yard. That is 99% of the time what's going to happen. If you're going to do this in stages, you're going to do your front yard first. So if you do, don't get so exuberant about it that you block off access to your backyard. Keep that all in mind. Maybe, you know, some of you might have a reason that like, no, I want to do my backyard where my family hangs out and I want to enjoy that first, and you want to go back forward. However you want to do that, just keep in mind the whole yard and all those rooms and the access to the rooms. And, you know, we'll have some beds that are like free floating beds, maybe in the middle of a lawn or something, but generally you're going to utilize buildings or fences, house corners, things like that to help determine the borders of your beds. And step 6 is actually plant beds part 2, phase 2. Again, don't forget that master plan that you had. And if there are existing plants you wanted to keep, but just not where they were, go ahead and, you know, that's the time to replant them and then place your new plants in. Of course, you're going to use proper planting practices or all of this will be, you know, for naught. You'll waste a lot of money. Now, if this is something you're not planning on doing yourself and you want to hire someone, make sure that they understand the word Florida-friendly landscaping. And not just that, ask them questions about Florida-friendly landscaping because they can throw the word out there. But you who have educated yourself, ask them questions to see if they really know what they're talking about, what Florida-friendly landscaping is. And there's a program now that the Florida-friendly landscaping program in Gainesville offers so that they can be trained and get a certificate in Florida-friendly landscaping. And they also call that Green Industries Best Management Practices. That's, you know, at least so they have an idea. And no, I can't recommend anyone, unfortunately. But you can go out there and just, you know, make sure that They know what they're doing and what Florida friendly landscaping is. Whoops, moving around too much here. Mulch is a very important part of Hernando County, or of, I'm sorry, Florida friendly landscaping. And believe it or not, I can talk an hour about mulch. So just make sure that you look up everything in Florida friendly landscaping says about mulch and how to do that appropriately. And of course you have, if you're establishing, even if you're using all natives, they still need water to get established. Even if you're using drought tolerant plants to get established, they still need water. So keep that in mind, to keep them watered to get them established. I would recommend a micro irrigation system that keeps the water near the roots of the plants. You're going to waste a lot of water if it's an overhead irrigation system. Step 7, and all that is repeats of 5 and 6. Like I said, you can do this in stages, do it little by little, however long it takes, that's fine. It's all up to you. Create those different sections and develop them at your own speed. And when I talked about that irrigation, if you don't plan on having an underground irrigation system of any kind, the different areas that you've established, you can use like a temporary, even just the old-fashioned hose and sprinkler, irrigation system, or a soaker hose, something like that, till this area gets established, and then use that same temporary system in the next area to get established. What I would do, you may have reasons for doing it differently. I would work my way back with the more visible areas finished first, and then the least visible areas finished last. And remember, in each section, as you go along, the plants are going to be smaller in each phase, but they will catch up eventually. Now, we've done all this. If we don't maintain, then, it was a lot of money spent for nothing. So keep yourself knowledgeable about Florida friendly landscaping, keep attending these classes, keep reading about it to find out how we maintain a Florida friendly landscape. It's a lot less maintenance than your traditional landscape, but it is not zero maintenance. So you do have to keep it up. And like I said, if you're going to hire someone, make sure they're certified in that green industries, best management practices, and also in Florida friendly landscaping. Just have a talk with them. Say, do you know the principles of Florida friendly landscaping? What does your company do to follow those principles? Things such as that. So again, we'll go over those steps and I'll put it in plainer language for you. Number 1, develop a plan and put it to paper. Number 2, install the hardscape. Number 3, make space for trees. Number 4, plant your trees. Number 5, the fun part, the icing on the cake, plant beds phase 1. Number 6 is plant beds phase 2. And there might be phase 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, depending on how that you go along. So you repeat 5 and 6 in various phases. Then I added the 8th step, which is maintenance. Because like I said, if you don't keep it all maintained properly, then it'll all be for naught in the end. Okay, but remember, there's no specific time frame. I mean, there may be for you for other various reasons, but like if you're wanting to move into a house and you need plant material down for your certificate of occupancy, then just do the basics, what you have to do, knowing you can build on it later. And take each phase as your time, energy, and your finances allow, and enjoy the process. Because here's another secret for you. It's never going to be done. A lot of gardeners know that gardening is never done. So enjoy it. I mean, they always say, if you're put on earth to accomplish a certain amount of things, maybe gardening will keep you here longer because you're never going to get it accomplished. But enjoy it while you do it. And I took those plans and a lot of the information from these 2 publications by the University of Florida. and you could Google those and look them up to get more detailed information as well. Landscape elements for a Florida-friendly yard, and landscape design, analyzing site conditions, by Gail Hansen and Aaron Alvarez. Here I have, here's our February classes that are coming up. You just go to the Facebook page as you did and click on the link. And here's the ones coming up for February. Also, what I didn't mention here is every Thursday at 10 o'clock, if you go to the University of Florida, Hernando County Extension office, and click on the link there, Dr. Lester has a virtual plant clinic. And that's kind of a casual, like a, I would say call in, but you basically write questions in the chat so that they can be answered by Dr. Lester, and I am usually his co-host. I'd say he's the Johnny and I am the Ed McMahon, and we a lot of times have special guests. And Dr. Lester is on vacation starting today, so I will be, Ed will be taking over the Tonight Show tomorrow, and I'm going to have a special guest, my colleague who's the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Coordinator in Pasco County. His name is Frank Galdo. He's been with me on a couple of classes. He's a really smart dude. So, you know, listen in and send any kind of questions that you might have. And if we don't know it, we'll just make sure that, you know, we'll send them to Bill and have him answer the following week. But we usually can find a lot of information for you. Before I go to the chat, I'm going to let Karen come on and let you know what's happening in the life of mosquito control.
Thank you, Lily. Well, welcome. And it was nice watching Lily's presentation today, and we're all interested in our gardening and redoing our plants. Right now, it's been really cold, so the mosquitoes have been kind of quiet. I think it's pretty unseasonably cold, if you ask me. I don't remember a winter being this long and cold before. But as we're getting ready, the heat will be back here next week. It's going to start warming up. So we want to make sure that our yards are also mosquito proofed, if you might call it that. So as you're doing your planting, if you have pots, the flower pots at the bottom, make sure those are always dumped and drained, because those little mosquito larvae, that's a great environment for them. They're always in those. If you have any watering cans, tip and toss that water out. Every couple days really is the best way to do it. Water your plants with that water, but don't let it stay in those watering cans. If you have a bird bath as part of your features in your garden, and especially in the warmer summer months, mosquitoes are pretty smart. They lay their eggs just above that water line, so when the rain comes, those eggs will hatch. You want to make sure you want to dump and drain that water, of course, to keep it fresh for the birds as well. And if you can, use a little brush, because it's that top of the bird bath where those eggs will sit, and they're really tiny. You don't really see them. So give it a good brush when you clean that out, at least weekly. Now is a good time too to check our gutters. We had a pretty windy winter, so there's probably a lot of pine needles and leaves in those gutters, and those are another spot that we don't technically see. We don't really realize that those pockets of water are sitting there, and they are breeding the mosquitoes. And of course, if you have any tarps or containers in your yard, just keep on top of that as well. If you have a fountain or a water feature in your yard, we are more than happy to supply you with mosquito fish for that. We can bring them to you. Just let us know when you call in. You'll probably speak with me. Let me know what size it is, and that'll determine how many fish you'll need in there. And that will maintain your water from breeding mosquitoes. They eat that larvae. They eat a ton. They're really good at that. So we do breed them here at our office, and we're more than happy to bring them out to you. They are native to our area, so it's not a fish from afar. They're gathered here in the county, bred, and then redistributed. Sometimes the birds will get them, so if you ever need to call us back, we'll be more than happy to give you some more. There is no charge for the fish. And if you are ever having a mosquito problem in your yard, please call us with that as well. We do have our parts of the county that we may, keep track of our mosquito counts. But your yard may not fall into that exact spot. So if you're having a problem with mosquitoes, give us a call. We have really friendly guys that'll come out. They'll do a walk around, find where that water, it could be a retention pond, it could be a drain, it could be a tree hole, it could be, nature that's creating that environment. And there's no need to have that. So if you give us a call, our guys will come out. Again, there's no charge for that. We need to keep our county safe. The reason why we do this is mosquitoes carry diseases. So we want to stay on top of that. And like I said, just give us a call. We'll be happy to come and take care of that for you. And I think I've covered.
Thank you, Karen. And let me go over this chat a little bit. Hi to Linda. I specifically harassed her into watching today's program because I know she's going to have a brand new yard soon and she wants to go Florida friendly. We have people from Safety Harbor, Flagler City, which I don't even know where that is. I'm assuming it's somewhere near St. Augustine, Clearwater, Niceville, again, Sarasota. Thank you for joining us, Colleen. Again, Sarasota, Orlando, Nassau County, Ocala. Hello from West Pasco. Let's see. How do you find out where the underground lines are? Like I said, you call that 811 and they will come out and mark them for you. Debbie asks, are there any consideration taken for neighbors, as in if I put large trees on my property line, now their area is shaded? That is, if you're in a deed restricted community, you need to know your rules very, very well. So study what they give you, see if it mentions that. And other than that, it's, between you and your neighbors. Maybe you have a talk with them and they say, yeah, I'd like that area to be shady. It's kind of an ethical thing as well, if it's not specifically mentioned in your covenants. Somebody ordered their book while listening. And how important is the seamless borders concept, not using in-ground plastic borders, landscape stones, etc., to divide areas, but let them be naturally separated and maintaining those edges by trimming. That would be entirely, again, if you're in a deed restricted community, there may be rules and regulations about that. Other than that, it's going to be up to, your style and how you like it. I do know to have a Florida friendly certified yard, you do have to have well-defined beds. So if you can accomplish that without borders, then, super, that's great. But other than that, it would be up to your style and your taste. And of course, it's going to be more naturalistic that way. And that might be what you're looking for. Thank you, Diana, is correcting my typo. It should say bugs, not butts. I guess you don't want to worry about butts that bite or sting you. So that should say bugs there. That's what master gardeners do. They keep me in line. And Debbie here is giving information about how you can order that the book from watermatters.org. Where can you pick up the Florida Yards and Neighborhoods Handbook? I'm not sure if the Hernando County Extension Office has those. I can find out and I can make some available for them there. I have a few. Other than that, you can find it online and have it as a PDF online. Karen, here's a question for you about mosquito fish, if you're still here. Will they do well in her pond?
Yes, I did put that down there.
Okay.
If the goldfish are the same size, the mosquito fish can be a little bit on the aggressive side, but if the goldfish are bigger, I believe they get along just fine. Okay. Of course, we can always test it with one or two, depending, I guess, on your goldfish. But yeah, the mosquito fish can kind of be a little aggressive. But usually if they're bigger goldfish, they won't mess with them.
We have a Texas viewer here with us, Karen, in West Palm Beach, in Ocala, Citrus. Does Pasco have mosquito fish, or do you know?
Yes,
Do you
yes.
share with other
Pasco,
counties?
yes. Most counties do. It's a very natural way to keep our mosquitoes. So most counties will have a fish program.
Is 811 is for all of Florida. I'm not sure about other states, but it is for all of them. Okay. Oh, and somebody else, they ordered a bunch of other material from watermatters.org too. And at the end of the chat here is Karen's phone number at mosquito control. If you're in Hernando County, it's 352-540-6552. Okay, and I believe that is it for the day. Thank you all for joining us. Again, this will be recorded, so if you have friends who missed it, let them know. Get on the Facebook this afternoon or in a few days. It should be on Hernando County Government YouTube as well. Let me turn off the recording for now. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.